Hello and welcome. Hang on a minute. I'll have a drink. Hello and welcome to the latest video on my top 1000. Okay, this video we're going numbers 520 down to 511. Okay, so let us go to the first fighter now, fighter number 520, and it is Howard Winston. Howard Winston, okay, defeated one world champion. He fought 57 rounds against champions. He beat no Hall of Fame fighters, Winston. He also fought 42 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. And Winston had 22 fights against rated fighters in his career. Now, Winston scored 27 knockouts, 4 in 3 rounds or less, and 0 in the first round. And all in all, he was rated throughout his career for a total of 8 years, and the longest unbeaten run he had was an unbeaten run of 34 fights. Now, Winston was never pound for pound rated in my all-time rankings. He had 5 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 1 win. He scored 0 wins against top 3 pound for pounders and 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Winston's opposition fought rate was 3 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 2 from 13. Oh, good evening, Paul. Good to see you. Good to see you, as always. Still finding time, mate. That's admirable. Howard Winston, okay, had 5 fights against champions, including 1 win, 4 loss, no draw, with 0 KOs. He had 3 fights against Hall of Famers, all of which are defeats. And Winston had 5 world title fights, okay. It took him a while. He had 1 win, 4 losses, no draws, and no title defences. So Winston kicks off the 10. When we go to the second fighter, fighter number 519, it is Juan Martin Koji. Now, Juan Martin Koji, okay, beat 5 world champions. He fought 88 rounds against champions, and he beat no Hall of Fame fighters, and also fought no rounds against Hall of Famers. Now, Koji, okay, had 9 fights against rated fighters. Good evening, man. Good to see you. He scored 44 knockouts, okay, 18 in 3 rounds or less, and 3 in the first round. Now, Koji was top 10 rated for a total of 7 years, and the longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 25 fights. Now, Juan Martin Koji was pound for pound rated for 0 years, and he had 3 fights against pound for pound fighters, scoring 1 win. He scored 0 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters, and 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Juan Martin Koji's opposition fought rate was 3 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 2 from 13. So 9 fights against champions he had. He from that scored 5 wins with 4 losses, no draws, and 2 knockouts. He has 0 fights against Hall of Famers, of course, with no rounds boxed. And in world title fights, he has a large world title fight record. Yeah, big shout out to Bruce Gass in the chat as well. Good to see all you guys. So in title fights, Juan Martin Koji had 16 title fights. Okay, he scored 13 title fight wins with 3 losses, no draws, and Koji made 10 title defences. So, on to our next fighter, okay, and it is Mexican former world champion down at flyweight, Efren Torres. Now, Efren Torres, okay, beat 3 world champions. He fought 102 rounds against champions, and Torres beat 1 Hall of Fame fighter, fighting 7 rounds against Hall of Famers in his career. Now, Efren Torres had 21 fights against rated opponents, and he scored a total of 41 knockouts, 21 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 5 in the first round. Now, Efren Torres was top 10 rated for a total of 8 years, and the longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 24 fights in total. Now, he was pound for pound rated for 1 year in my all-time rankings, Torres. He had 5 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 2 wins. He scored 0 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters, and 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Efren Torres, in terms of opposition fought rate, comes in at 3 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 2 from 13. So Torres had 10 fights against champions. That included 3 wins, 7 losses, no draws, with 2 knockouts. He had 2 fights against Hall of Famers with a split record of 1 win, 1 loss, no draw, with 1 knockout. And Torres had 5 world title fights. That included 2 wins, 3 losses, no draws, and 1 title defence. So there is the excellent little fighter Efren Torres. When we go on to fight number 517, okay, it's up to heavyweight, okay, to big Sandy Ferguson, the heavyweight contender from the time of Johnson and Langford. Now, Sandy Ferguson beat 4 individual world champions. He fought 210 rounds against champions, and he beat 2 individual Hall of Fame fighters, fighting a total of 168 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now, Sandy Ferguson was a pure pre-rating era fighter. Unfortunately, unlike my next top 1000 that will highlight major fights, major wins, he had no fights against rated fighters. He scored 17 knockouts, 11 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 6 knockouts in the first round. Now, Sandy Ferguson, was top 10 rated for 0 years, and the longest unbeaten run was a run of 17 fights. Now, he was pound for pound rated for 0 years, and Sandy Ferguson had a total of 17 fights against pound for pound fighters, scoring 2 wins. He scored 0 wins in the other 2 pound for pound categories, and his opposition fought rate comes in at 4 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 1 from 13. So you can see there the opposition fought rate dwarfs the opposition beat rate, showing that he fought an amount of opposition that didn't win the majority of that opposition and the better opponents he fought. So, 19 fights against champions he had, which at the time when there wasn't the 8 main divisions fully established is quite a large tally. Now, he scored 4 wins with 12 losses, 3 draws and 1 knockout, and he had 15 fights against Hall of Fame fighters, including 2 wins, 11 losses, 2 draws with 0 knockouts, and Sandy Ferguson had 0 world title fights. Sandy Ferguson is not an all-time great, he's not Hall of Fame worthy, he was just a tough, rugged contender of his time, but the one thing what you cannot say about him is he didn't mix in incredible company, because when you look at his resume, his level of opposition is immense. So, on to our next fighter, fighter number 516, is a fighter who from some angles can look like Sugar Ray Robinson, even down to the white trunks with the stripe. But this fighter is called Henry Hank. Now, Henry Hank, beat 2 world champions, he fought 79 rounds against champions, and he beat 1 Hall of Fame fighter, and he fought a total of 66 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now, Henry Hank had a tally of 40 fights against rated fighters. Quite a large number even down at this level, but not large compared to some to come. Now, Henry Hank scored 40 knockouts in his career, 18 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 7 in the first round. Hank was top 10 rated for a total of 5 years, and the longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 10 fights. Now, Henry Hank was never pound for pound rated in my all-time rankings, but he did have 6 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 1 win. He scored 1 win against a pound for pound top 3 fighter, and 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters, and his opposition fought rate comes in at 4 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 2 from 13. So Henry Hank had 8 fights against champions, that includes 2 wins, 6 losses, no draws, with 0 KOs. He has 6 fights against Hall of Famers, including 1 win, 5 loss, no draw, with 0 KOs, and Henry Hank has 0 world title fights. So, on from Henry Hank in 516. Yeah, he does look mean, Martin, yeah. He was a capable fighter as well. So, from Henry Hank in 516, we go to fighter 515, to one of the great flyweight names of his time, Pone King Petch. Now, Pone King Petch, a multiple-time world champion himself, beat 3 world champions, for 80 rounds against champions. And King Petch, beat 2 Hall of Fame fighters individually, fighting 49 rounds against them. Now, he had a total of 16 fights against rated fighters, and the thing about Pone King Petch, he had a very small career, even for his time. So these numbers he scores, some of these numbers he scores, are from a much shorter career than virtually all the other fighters around him. But he still managed 16 fights against rated opponents. King Petch scored 9 KOs, 2 in 3 rounds or less, and 0 in the first round. And he was top 10 rated for a staggering 10 years throughout his career, equivalent to a whole decade. Now, his longest unbeaten run was one of 13 fights, and Pone King Petch was pound for pound rated for 1 year. Now, he had 4 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 3 wins. He scored 0 wins against top 3 pound for pounders and 0 wins against number 1 rated pound for pounders. And his opposition fought rate, belied by his small career size, hard for him to score high, was 1 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 1 from 13. Now, Pone King Petch, scored 7 fights against champions. That includes 4 wins, 3 losses, 0 draws, with 1 knockout. Now, against Hall of Famers, he had less fights, but won a higher percentage. He had 4 in total, including 3 wins, 1 loss, no draw, with 1 knockout. And King Petch had 9 world title fights, including 6 wins, 3 losses, no draws, and 3 title defences. So there goes number 515. the multiple-time flyweight champion Pone King Petch. So, on to our next fighter, 514. Okay, it's Kevin Kelly, who took part in that outstanding battle with Naseem Hamed, amongst many other career highlights. Kevin Kelly defeated 9 individual world champions. He fought 159 rounds against champions. And he beat no Hall of Fame fighters, but he did fight 15 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. And Kevin Kelly had a total of 20 fights against rated opponents. He scored 39 knockouts, 20 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 7 in the first round. And Kevin Kelly, all in all, was top 10 rated for a total of 6 years, and his longest unbeaten run was an unbeaten run of 41 fights. Now, he was never pound-for-pound rated in my all-time rankings. Kevin Kelly did have 5 fights against pound-for-pounders, scoring 1 win, but he scored 0 wins against top 3 pound-for-pounders and 0 wins against pound-for-pound number 1 rated fighters. And his opposition fought rate comes in at 3 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 2 from 13. So Kevin Kelly had 16 fights against champions, including 9 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw, with 2 knockouts. He had 3 fights against Hall of Famers, all of them are defeats. And he had 5 world title fights, including 3 wins, 2 losses, no draws, and 2 title defences. Another little factoid here from this video, Sandy Ferguson, okay, had more fights against Hall of Famers than Kevin Kelly for Alphabet champions. Just to put their careers in a bit of context. Now, because more fighters are in the hall than have been world champions, less fighters are in the hall by a margin than what have been world champions. So the fact Ferguson fought more Hall of Fame fights than Kevin Kelly fought Alphabet champions in the 4-belt era is incredible. Kevin Kelly had 5 world title fights. That includes 3 wins, 2 losses, no draws, and 2 title defences. So we have 3 fighters to go, people. Let's go to the first of them now. Fighter number 513. Okay, and even Deontay Wilder cannot match up to some of these knockout numbers of Canadian heavyweight George Chuvalo. One of the naturally tough heavyweights of all time. It reminds me of Jake LaMotta. It reminds me of an Oliver McCall, a guy who you can hit with kitchen sink. Even though LaMotta has the Nardico thing and Robinson staggered him here or there. Etc., etc. Chuvalo was stung by George Foreman. But not the fight not ending on that. But yeah, it's almost impossible to knock these guys out. George Chuvalo beat no world champions. He fought 71 rounds against champions. And he beat no Hall of Fame fighters, fighting 46 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now, Chuvalo, okay, had 23 fights against rated fighters. Now, some of his knockout stats even made Deontay Wilder look tame. Chuvalo scored 64 knockouts, 64, and he scored a staggering 45 knockouts in 3 rounds or less. George Chuvalo scored 13 first-round wins, and he was top 10 rated for a total of 6 years. Now, Chuvalo's longest unbeaten run was a run of 12 fights in total, and he was pound-for-pound rated for 0 years. Now, George Chuvalo, okay, had 5 fights against pound-for-pounders, scoring no wins in the 3 pound-for-pound categories, and his opposition fought rate was 3 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 2 from 13. So Chuvalo had 7 fights against champions. All 7 of those fights are defeats. He had 5 fights against Hall of Famers, and likewise, all 5 fights are defeats. And he had 2 title fights. Both of those fights are also defeats. But one tough guy he was. So, from Chuvalo in 513, we go to fighter number 512. Okay, to a fighter called Yoshio Shirai. Now, Shirai, okay, beat 2 world champions. He fought 92 rounds against champions. And he beat no Hall of Fame fighters, also fighting 30 rounds against Hall of Famers in his career. Now, Shirai had 12 fights against rated fighters, and he scored a total of 18 knockouts, 11 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 5 in the first round. Now, Shirai was top 10 rated for a total of 4 years, and the longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 23 fights in total. Now, Yoshio Shirai was pound-for-pound rated for 0 years, and he had a total of 3 fights against pound-for-pounders, but scored no wins in the 3 pound-for-pound categories, and his opposition fought rate was 2 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 2 from 13. So Yoshio Shirai had 8 fights against champions. That included 4 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw with 1 knockout. He had 3 fights against Hall of Famers. That includes no wins, 2 losses, 1 draw with 0 knockouts. And Yoshio Shirai had 7 world title fights, including 5 wins, 2 losses, no draws, and 4 title defences. So Shirai takes 512, the final fighter on this video. 511, okay, is modern world champion Felix Sturm. Now Felix Sturm, okay, beat 9 world champions individually. He fought 146 rounds against champions, and Sturm beat no Hall of Fame fighters. He did fight 12 rounds against a Hall of Fame fighter. And Felix Sturm had a total of 19 fights against rated opponents throughout his career. Now he scored 18 knockouts, okay, 10 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 4 in the first round. And Sturm was top 10 rated for a massive 12 years throughout his career. His longest unbeaten run was a run of 20 fights, and he was pound for pound rated for 0 years. Now Felix Sturm had 1 fight against a pound for pounder, but scored no wins in the 3 pound for pound categories, and his opposition fought rate comes in at 2 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 1 from 13. So, when we look at his fights against champions, Sturm has quite a tally, 15 in total, including 9 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw, with 4 knockouts. He has 1 fight against Hall of Famers, that was a defeat, and he has a massive world title fight record, a multiple time world champion. Felix Sturm had 23 world title fights. Some people don't realise, I think, how many title fights he actually had. Now, he always didn't fight the best opposition, but to say he's got a garbage resume is being unfair, because he did actually fight a number of good fighters as well. But Sturm has a massive tally, 23 world title fights, including 16 wins, 5 losses, 2 draws, and Sturm throughout his various reigns made a total of 13 title defences. So people, that ends video 520 to 511. Okay, coming tomorrow night, we'll officially hit the halfway mark of my top 1000 in video 510 to 501. Okay, and then we're officially into the top half. Like I say, I'm going to be cramming more videos in when I have time, speeding up the process now. Like I said, I will cram odd career video in here or there, but as well as me graph chart videos on me ring rankings. But you know, the top 1000 has to be finished, so I can 100% focus, well, not 100%, 80% focus on career videos and get them churning out, heading to my target of 1,000 plus. So there's the latest video, 520 to 511. Who will be the 10 fighters in the video 510 501, just failing to break into the top half of my top 1000? That will be unveiled tomorrow. I would like to say a big shout out to everyone in the chat, Bruce, Paul, Martin. Great fellas, all of you. Love you all to bits. Not in a weird way, but you know, just a general expression, you know, of my appreciation to you all. And yeah, everyone take care. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm the Boxing Librarian, and I'm out for now.